Well, remember you and I had this interview and we started talking about Charles Oakley.
Yes.
And I was telling you about this incident I had at a Jordan party where me and my man, my son, are at the front of the line. We're walking in and I'm on the list, right? My man, Reggie Saunders, who's a high-level guy at Nike, a Jordan brand, puts me on the list whenever I want to go. So I'm walking in behind Charles Oakley, not knowing it's Charles Oakley, it's just this big, tall guy who's got his back to me. And as I'm walking, he suddenly stops and puts his hand on my chest and said, "Hey, man, don't play me. Don't play me like that."
Right, because he thought you were trying to act like you were with him and walking in, but he didn't know.
In his mind, he's thinking, I'm trying to sneak in with him.
Right.
Right? So it was a very awkward moment because I got this giant hand on my chest, this guy who's like 1.5 feet taller than me, and
wants to fight all the time.
Yeah, that I'm not trying to step up again. And I'm like, what? And he's like, don't play me like that. And he just turns around and walks in. So I got to interview Charles Oakley recently, and I brought up the incident in VladTV fashion. Well, I could tell you how you and I met, and I'm pretty sure you don't remember this, but it was at the Jordan party in New York, right? And we were, my man Reggie Saunders from Jordan Brand put me and my man on the list, and you were walking in, and we were walking kind of behind you, and you turned around and you put your hand on my chest and said, "Hey, man, don't play me like that." That was in New York. It was real cold outside.
Down, yeah. I don't know. Could have.
So I have this giant hand on my chest right now. Like, all right, I ain't gonna play you like that. I wasn't actually trying to sneak in with you. I'm not a sneak in kind of guy. I've never stuck in a party. But
I try to always make things right. I'm a guy who make things right. I remember about KD came to the Jordan party with some. I think he was in Denver or something. He came with some sweatsuit on, this and that. I like KD. I know he was young in the league. Like, you can't become no part with no sweatpants on, this and that. It was funny though. Everybody was like, "We see you said that something to him." I mean, But it is what it is. Younger guys, I'm glad they like me, they listen. But it's just NBA is, it's a different league now.
He just completely changed the subject on me. He actually answered me with a totally different story that had nothing to do with my story. You saw it, right?
Yes,
you saw it. He actually did not address what I told him.
He let it go like whatever. And what he meant, because you got to read through it's cryptic.
You know him.
Right. So
this is the first time me and him were talking.
Right. I
listened to it again, I still don't understand what just happened.
So what happened is you explained going into the party that you were trying to regulate. Like, he was trying to regulate. And that's what he was telling you. He was like, I'm known as a guy to make things right. So when it turns around and he held you off, he was trying to make it right that these people shouldn't slip in. He also gave you a story about KD because he was trying to say, hey, man, dress the part. And you got to be able to talk to people. And Charles Oakley can go out and be the police officer. And that's what he meant by, I'm known as the guy to make it right. Because he is. Because everyone would tell you, you stepped the MJ the wrong way. You stepped MJ the wrong way. Oakley, you have to deal with.
Right, yeah. And we talked about how he was kind of known as the cop on the Bulls that would protect Jordan from cheap shots.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah. He said, basically, whatever team I'm on, I try to protect my teammates.
Yeah.
So that's what he meant.
That's what he meant.
Because to this day, I did not understand what he meant by that answer.
Yeah, he said, well, I'm known, I always try to make things right. Like, he would walk around like he's the cop too. Like, he would walk in and Oak be like, all right, everything is going to go like this. Like, he was that kind of guy. Even when he was getting put out of the Garden. When he was getting put out of the Garden.
Yeah, we talked about that too.
Yeah. The guy who was putting him out of the Garden and wanted to put his hands on him, wanted to put his hands on him his whole life. It had, and he wanted the owner to see that he physically tried to put him out because he knew the owner would see it and be like, you're going to be paid for the rest of my life. Because he realized being friends with Oakley ain't going to do shit for me. But doing what Mr. Dolan says is going to do everything for me.
Well, he's actually suing the Knicks or Madison Square Garden, one of the two, maybe even both.
Right.
We'll see what happens. But it was a very interesting moment. And,
I'm glad he didn't beat you up. Man. Hey,
man. Well, you know something?
Get a haircut.
At the end of the interview, I actually and I'm a little nervous because, it's like, the interview setup was a bit awkward and so forth. At the end of the interview, I accidentally called him Charles Barkley. And Tim Hardaway caught it. They just started busting up, and Tim said, man, if you were here in person, because we're doing it remotely, he said Charles would punch you in the stomach. Well, Charles Barkley, Tim Hardaway, definitely an honor to sit down and talk to you guys.
You call him Charles Barkley.
Won't you get me?
You call him Charles Barkley.
Oh, I'm sorry. My bad. Let me start over. Sorry.
Get me a,
sorry, I'm fucking up.
If you was right here, see, you would have got slapped.
Me and
I would have probably got slapped.
Me and Barkley
I would
on
have got
this show
slapped
together. Now that'd be a show.
He would. And his thing is punching people in the stomach.
Fuck. He's punched you in the stomach.
He punched me in the stomach. But that's his whole thing. Every time you see Charles, you go and he uppercuts everybody. So every time people see Charles, like your hands is like down here. We're leaving your face open.
Yeah, man.
He's one of my favorite people, though. I had to tell Alonzo more.
He actually told me that you actually reached out on my behalf to try to get interviewed.
I went to everybody. Remember you said bring players in? And I was thinking of I think Craig Hodges is the most, is the best interview. And not because you did it, but this is why. Because he got to explain, you get to see all this now, the Black Lives Matter. Mm-hmm. This cat was doing it in the 80s. In the 80s and 90s. And he went to Magic. He went to the biggest names of all time. Like, no.
Yeah, we talked about that, how he told Magic and Jordan not to take the court in the NBA Finals. Magic said that's too extreme. Jordan said, you're crazy. Okay, so then in 91, the Bulls get to the championships.
Yes.
And you guys played the Lakers with Magic Johnson.
Absolutely.
Well, before game one, you actually approached both Jordan and Magic.
Right.
And you suggested that the teams not take the floor.
Right.
As a protest to the social injustice that's happening with black people in America.
And see, it wasn't just, and that's, I think, my position at that point in time was we didn't have black owners, black management, black executives. At that point in time, we have an opportunity with 21 of the 24 athletes. And that's one of the things, I was talking to Horace Grant about that this morning because he called me to get clarification. And I was telling Horace, I was like, brother, when I was talking to y'all in 1991, half of y'all was looking at me like I had my third eye literally outside of my head. So when I would ask y'all, brothers, what about us boycott? It was so cursory to y'all. It was so like nonsensical. It was just a fleeting thought. So when I brought it to Magic and MJ, y'all didn't take it serious. I know y'all didn't. So it was, once again, it was serious to me. But in hindsight, could I have done it by myself and just sat down, but sacrifice that moment of work? Nah. And it wouldn't nobody care. So for me, I understood how they looked at it at that period of time, and I saw how easy it was for them to cast aside the fact of how much power y'all truly have. That y'all actually got power to make these changes, but y'all don't even consider it as a serious thought process. Y'all don't even consider it to look at in 1963 when Jerry West and Elgin Baylor said that we were going to boycott the All-Star game, and we got a Players Association out of that. So their willingness to do it back then in 1963 gives you the ability to be Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan and whoever else has come after them, because we have all garnered on the sacrifices that those two players that we know of, let alone the unsung players that we don't know about who sacrificed so that we could get this bread that we making today.
And they were both right. They were both right. And the reason they were both right is the way he saw it, that if they did this, it was going to bring effect to this. And this is my situation when you said we need a leader in these movements. Every time there was a leader, they cut the head off. Every single time.
Yeah, Craig Hodges, after he gave the note to George H.W. Bush, that was the end of his career.
Yeah.
That was it. Just coming off 2 championships, a 3-point god, all that. Nope, that's it.
And because those small things, you can't do small things. Those, I say small hinges open big doors or baby steps. But you have to have a complete plan before you do anything. And just doing these little small things, these little spark fires, they can put them out. It has to be part of a whole movement. Like Kaepernick taking a knee, hurt Kaepernick's career as a player. Nike knew we better pay this guy because his followers wear our sneakers. So, and we believe, whether they do or not, I'm going to give Nike the benefit of the doubt. Start sending me some slides. I'm finally going to give Nike some pull. Somebody in there said, we need to be on this side of history, not this side.
Yeah.
And they were right. That was a great gamble. It was a gamble. But if you're going to do things, you can't do them at the spur because you think it's going to bring light to that. We don't have any unity. Dog, they got rid of the Black Panthers because they were organizing and because they had a plan. They weren't just sitting around saying, then they got on certain ones, they got on Kwame because he was saying Zionist and they wanted to say anti-Semitic. They'll find different ways to break you down, not to pay attention to the point. So if Kaepernick were to have a conversation with all the ball players, and then if they really wanted to make a difference in the NFL, they all would have been on the same page, not like they are right now, and not showed up.